Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from today. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Those of you that joined myself and Arsene and Carrie in giving you the background of this project. But now it's time to do the cool things, to talk about all the data and the models and all these things that you've been so eager to learn about, and you already asked us a lot of questions, so this is the place for us to answer all of those. But before we do this, I want to take a moment to ask my wonderful co-presenters to introduce themselves, because I want you to put some faces to the names, and also to know who is going to help us run these workshops. So maybe Pierre-Luc, I'll ask you first, and then you can pick the next person. Thanks.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Pierre-Luc. I am a research scientist currently at Law Zero, a new nonprofit organization that focuses on AI safety. I've worked in the past with Adriana on this project on AIMS, the first version, back when I was at Mila in the applied research team, where some of my colleagues still are. So I'll throw the mic to Jordan.
Hi everyone. Am I audible? Yes? Awesome. Yeah, so my name is Jordan Bannister. I'm an applied research scientist at Mila on Pierre-Luc's old team. And yeah, I also had the pleasure of working with Adriana on kind of a later phase of this project as well. We'll pass the mic to Duoyi.
Thanks, Jordan. Hi, everyone. My name is Dorey. I'm from Queensland University of Technology in Australia. I was working with Adriana on the modeling part of this AIMS project, and I will pass to Akshata.
Hi, everyone. I'm Akshata Arodi. I'm also an applied research scientist at Mila, Montreal AI Research Institute. I was also lucky to be a part of the AIMS project in the second half. So happy to see you.
Thank you. And Tim?
Hi everyone, I'm Tim Dorey. I'm co-founder and CTO of Inform 365. We build software as a service products for mostly the Australian market to support corporates in their modern slavery risk analysis and reporting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And as you see, we have a very strong team and diverse skill set here. And just to set the expectations clear, in this workshop, we're talking about data mining, processing, and enrichment. So this workshop aims to give you a good understanding of how we understood how did we build the data sets that we use in Project AIMS, what are some of the resources out there, and then give you a good overview of the challenges that we want to ask you to work on. In particular, in this workshop, we're going to focus only on the data challenge, and then the follow-up workshop, we're going to discuss the models, and then later today, the application. So just so you know, if you have particular questions about the models or software, please keep them for the next workshop. But if you are going to work on this challenge, I'm glad you're here, because you will need good data to be able to build good models or good applications. So I hope this will help you understand a bit more the data sources. So we will start first with just giving you a bit of overview of the resources. And then I'm going to invite my colleagues to tell you how we build some of the resources, and then we're going to dive into the challenge and explain what our expectations are, and then pick up any of your questions. I see there is already a question in the chat. So all the materials, we're going to try to put them in a drive and share them with you by the end of today, including the participant handbook. But also, you've seen in the previous sessions, we had a lot of different resources shared by speakers. So we hope to provide those with you, so you have all the information you need. All right, so let's start. I will firstly want to show you the the GitHub. Please confirm that I'm sharing the right screen. It's this the AIMS AI for Humanity AIMS.eu
Yep.
GitHub.
Is there?
Yeah.
That's good. So this is the main place where you're going to find the resources that you need for this project. I will also put it on the chat as I go. All these links that I'm presenting, I also put them in the chat, but you'll also, I think we linked this in every single document we share, so hopefully you'll have access to this. So what you're going to find in this repository is a description of the project aims. This is going to take you to the project website, but also where our data sets are, the prompts that we use, the code that we developed, and then the weights of the models, the larger model, but also the smaller distilled models that you're going to learn more about in the next workshop. And then we're providing here some overviews of the papers that we wrote and that we were already published, and we also have a few in preprint. Hopefully we'll be able to share those with you, but this is the main place we're going to find the resources for Project AIMS. So starting with the data, as you see here, we have our data set in two main places. One is on Figshare and one on Hugging Face. So I know a lot of you have already been looking at the Figshare data, and you've been trying to download it, some of it, and had some struggles downloading the deep lake, but we will have Pierre-Luc give you a full rundown on how each of these data sets were built, especially the deep lake, and then you can decide afterwards if you think you will need it. But what are you going to find here in the Figshare? First and foremost are the annotation specifications. So this document, it is the backbone of our annotated data set. We built together this document to teach the annotators on how to read a statement and how to extract the information that is needed for the mandatory criteria. So this is the training material that we provided to each of the annotator in order for them to build the annotated data set. How did the process look? In our first paper, AIMS.eu, that you can find on this link here. If you are going to go here, I'm going to put it in the chat. And of course, you can access the PDF. And this is how the paper looks like. This is our preprint. This has also been presented. You'll see the process of building the annotated data set here. We also have the figures, so I think it's clearer in here. So this is the annotation specification document that I showed you on Figshare. So we use this annotation specification document to work with the annotation company, Dorey, and then train the annotators. They were providing us each week 10 documents as a sample so we can test the progression of their annotations. And we were assessing the quality of those annotations, and then we provide feedback until we were happy with this process. And how do the annotation look like? Within each document, we ask the annotator to read each sentence and tell us if this sentence is relevant for any of the mandatory criteria of the law that you are so familiar with by now. So this is a sentence level annotation. So we have annotations at sentence level, which means that out of the 5,700 documents that we were able to annotate, we ended up with over 800,000 annotation at sentence level. So when we did the annotation, we broke it down in two stages. One in which we look at the simple annotations. Those are about, is the document approved? Is the document signed? And has the company described the reporting entity? Those are quite easy annotations. So we were able to annotate this with only one annotator and do the quality assurance process. But then when we moved to the more complex criteria, description of supply chain structure, risk, mitigation, remediation, assessment, all the things we've learned about yesterday, we asked to have 2 annotators and then a third annotator validating the results once there was a huge disagreement between the 2 annotators. And then all of this becomes our annotated data set. And on top of that, we created a goal test and validation data that we developed so we can have a good resource to test the results of our models. And those data sets were annotated by domain experts. So this is how we built the annotation data set, and this is how it looks like. So this CSV, the 76 megabytes one, is the raw annotation. So you have here the statement ID. And then you can have each of the mandatory criteria, right? Here, this one is C2 structure operation. You see it here. The answer for this document is yes. The company has described structure, and this is why this is the text from the statement that the annotator thinks is relevant for that particular question. Then we also ask the annotator to tell us if they see any tables or any infographics within the document relevant for that particular criteria, and most of the times they're not, but sometimes there are tables or infographics relevant. So then we ask them to tell us, did you see a visual element? Yes. Then what page did you find that element on? Page 1. And is this scan or can you extract text? No, this is not scan, and this is the broken text that they were able to extract from this visual element. And then for each of the other mandatory criteria, we ask the same thing. Can you find information about the mandatory criteria? Operation, yes, I can. What are the sentences relevant? These are the sentences. And then can you see any other relevant information that is in a format that is not text, like a table or other visual element? No problem. Let's move to the next criteria. So this is the raw annotation in something that you can extract. And this data is also available on Hugging Face. So here you'll be able to find it. It's the same data, and it's just that we have this data now restructured, so it's more for machine learning training. So you see you have the statement and then the sentence ID, and then it can tell you this is the sentence from this document, and this sentence is not relevant for any of the mandatory criteria, or it is for this one for criteria 1. We also, in the Hugging Face, you'll see that we also provide you with the metadata for the document. So you will be able here to see, for instance, for statement ID 12, like we were looking at, you'll figure out the information in terms of the company name, ABN, the revenue, the industry that they're working on, sector, and the country. Right, so this is our annotated data set, and then this is for the Australian modern slavery statements. We also have some data that we annotated for our UK and Canadian statements for our second paper. And this paper is the one where we look at how well our models that we developed to benchmark Australian statements can generalize to UK and Canadian statements. And to do that, to be able to do this testing, we needed to annotate some documents from UK and Canada, and they are also here. And this is the information that you will have on the Figshare. And similarly here, if you go to the Hugging Face, you'll find this information about the Dorey data. And again, you can also see the training and validation data sets that we use for our test, as well as the UK and Canadian one. Before moving into more details about this, I want to take you back to the original data sources of this before we even annotate it. And those are the 3 registries of the government. You have yesterday been in a session where you've learned from both from governments from the UK, Canada, and Australia, and they all told you how they have their documents centralized in these registries. And this is where you can find all the available documents as they are as of today. When we created our annotated data set, we took the data available as of April 2023 from the Australian government registry. So there are a lot more documents that have been published ever since, which means that in these 3 registries, you're going to find a lot of unannotated data sets and a lot more new documents. So this is the source of the documents that you can use in your assessment. And how does the statement look like? So you can go within, let's say, the Australian registry, and then you can find statements like the quanta statements and look at the quanta statements. For instance, in the metadata, how many reporting entities are covered by this one statement. And this gives you a sense of how complex each of these statements are. So you go here and you see in these statements, just like Sebastian showed you, this statement has a lot of infographics. It has information in tables, in these interesting figures, these complex tables, some text here and there, but mainly you see very complex figures that we in our pre-processing phase we were not able to extract. So this is an extremely complex PDF that we will be able to analyze, but as you can see, just a general text extractor might struggle to extract the text. By contrary, for instance, if we go to the Public Safety Canada and we look at one of their newly published statements, it's a wonderful digital PDF with only plain text. Every single sentence is written under a clear heading. And most likely will be very easy to map back to the reporting criteria. But of course, because this is a digital sign, you see this page, last page, so everything is digital. Last page, it is scanned. So most likely your just a normal text extractor without OCR capabilities will not be able to extract. So this is the data that we're working with. We're working with statements from the 3 registries. Some statements are complex, some statements are simple, but then even if it looks simple, we might have a page or 2 that are scanned, so those are a bit difficult. And then these are the resources that we have on the GitHub, which it's mainly our data set that we're going to talk about today. So available on Figshare and on Hugging Face. So now I just want to check if there are any questions. If not, maybe I will pass it to Pierre-Luc to tell us a little bit more about how did we take this raw CSV, let's say, that the annotators sent to us, and how did we transform this data into the deep lake that then we use to fine-tune the models. Is it clear so far, or do you have any questions? If not, we can have you, Pierre-Luc, present the deep lake.
All right. I'll have to do a high-level presentation, unfortunately, because I do not have a development environment set up anymore. I tried to set one up, but it's taken a little bit too long in the background. So at a high level, I can give you a little bit the history of how the deep lake was built, and I'll also share my screen probably to point you towards a few interesting files. So in short, and you'll see timestamps and logs pretty much across the framework of code that we're providing. We downloaded from the modern slavery registry of Australia back in 2023. We downloaded essentially every statement that existed, and we ran these through a text extractor. Actually, two text extractors. We used FITS, also named PyMu PDF, I believe, on PyPy, and Abby FineReader. These two text extractors have different pros and cons. FineReader does have an OCR engine. FITS is more straightforward, will not do OCR, but it seems like it structures text a little better. So we ran both of these engines on the raw PDFs. We extracted the results and we just saved them on disk. These results, we wanted to package them with a bunch of other interesting metadata. So for each PDF, we packaged the raw PDF file, the extracted data from the text processing engine, a bunch of metadata related to the position of figures inside the PDFs. Like, for example, if there's a figure on page 6 at these pixel coordinates at the top of the PDF, that metadata is available in the deep lake format. Along with this, all the annotations from the different rounds of annotations we did, we package all of this up into this deep lake format. So the very high level question some of you may be asking is, why do we need this data packaged into deep lake? You don't. I think, as we were discussing with Adriana just earlier, you might not need this data specifically for the current challenge, which is data processing, because you can just go on your own and extract new stuff from existing PDFs and find new methodologies to find valuable information online. But if you do want to go and improve an existing data extraction and preparation pipeline, it might be worth investigating the deep lake dataset that we provide and investigating the scripts that were used to create this specific dataset. For example, when we turned PDFs into sentences that were meant to be classified downstream with actual models, the processing that needed to be done to turn raw blobs of text into sentences was a lot of heuristics and regexes and all kinds of functions with lots of if else to make sure that we caught all potential edge cases related, for example, to paragraph structuring and what happens if there's a bullet point, what happens if there's a weird bullet point, like non-ASCII kind of letters popping up, and what happens, for example, if you have sentences that are broken up across multiple pages, that are broken up because of figures that like are misplaced on the page, stuff like that. This is all things that you could go and try to improve on to improve the quality of the data that we would be ultimately processing. But again, it's probably good to look at the framework. So I'll be sharing my screen just quickly to point towards some of the files that exist in this big framework. So let me go back to the main page. So this is the main page for the repository that we're sharing with you. It should be in the resources associated with the workshop. So in this code folder here, that's the original project that we use to conduct our experiments, like train models, but also package the raw data. The QUT01 folder here. Oh, well, actually, let me take it just a bit slower. There's a big README here that describes how to install this framework. So it tells you a little bit about installing the dependencies and setting up an environment so that you can rerun the scripts. It tells you about setting up an environment file with some data and output folders so you can fetch data automatically and store data sets you might be creating, for example. And then there's a bunch more information on how to conduct experiments, but I'll leave that for later. There's a lot more information about the structure of this framework and everything, but what I would like to point to as interesting bits, the first thing is in notebooks. This notebooks folder here, there's a particular notebook here called Data Parsing Demo. It's a rather dense notebook. I'm sorry about that. There's a little bit of description, but if I try to summarize it at a very high level, it will give you a full walkthrough of how to load the full data set using this deep lake format and go and actually print some of the data directly inside the notebook. So at a very high level, we just get the correct paths to where the data set is stored. Then we create essentially like two objects. The first one being just a data set object that goes and fetches the raw data. and then a parser object that will go and parse it into something like more proper that we can manipulate. And then the rest of the data set just goes and uses that parser to go and display the data and tell you essentially like everything there is about this data set. So it'll print a bunch of statistics and things like that. So if you're interested in using it at a high level, I do strongly recommend going through this notebook and trying to execute it. But otherwise, if you're interested in the extraction and data preparation pipeline, what we use to create this specific data sets, it is in this qt01/data folder. Everything is in here, and specifically in this scripts subfolder. So I'm in the top project code qt01 data and scripts. And these scripts, which are documented in the top level README, they're the ones that we chained up like one by one to actually go and parse the raw data from the original PDFs and turn all of this into a deep lake format. So I'll probably keep it there because otherwise it's going to get extremely technical. But yes, if you have other questions related to the data format or this particular code, feel free to even email me that. That would probably be appropriate. So yes, I'll throw back the mic to anybody else.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pierre-Luc, for this. And I hope if you had the trouble following up that, please open the GitHub on your side, and then I'm sure you will be able to have a clearer view. But if you have any questions, thank you for the offer, Pierre-Luc, for them to be able to contact you. And then, so this is how we build the annotation data set, and then how we process it into the deep lake format that we needed in order to be able to fine-tune models later. And that's for the AIMS.eu paper. But then when we move to the other paper, the AIMS check paper, where we look at the generalizability of the models from Australia to UK and Canada, we needed to fetch the documents from the registry from Canada and the UK. So this is when Jordan built a script to help us access those documents. So you'll see that in Australia, maybe I'll see if I'll share my screen again. In
I'm happy to
Australia,
do it as well. It's up to you, Adriana.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, just maybe I'll pass it to you, Jordan, just to say UK
Sure.
and Australia, you can download the documents. In Canada, you cannot, and that's why we needed to build the script. So I'll just pass it to you to go into that. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll go through that right now. Thank you. Yeah, so as Adriana mentioned, and as Pierre-Luc mentioned, I won't be covering the Australian statements. This was a follow-up work, so we didn't. We had all of Pierre-Luc's to build off of as well. So I'll just share my screen quickly. Is this visible? Look good? Okay, I've got the wide monitor today. So the first link here I'm showing on the right-hand side is just this is the link to the UK service registry that Adriana shared earlier. And the UK registry has this nice, it's organized a little better where you can just download the CSV file from any particular year. And if you open this CSV file, which you'll see on the left-hand side, and scroll all the way to the right, you'll see a whole bunch of metadata. And at the very right-hand side, you'll see just a PDF URL. This is a very convenient way that you can just download any number of statements from the UK registry quite easily. As she mentioned, the Canadian registry is not quite as easy to do. So there's no unified CSV file that's going to provide you all of the PDF links. However, we use some code from Pierre-Luc's repository there, and actually kind of made quite a simple notebook that is going to allow you to scrape the Canadian registry here. So this is very minimal, but if you're interested in doing this yourself, it's a great starting point. And basically, what we need to do is just use Beautiful Soup for parsing the web page and requests, and we crawl through the Canadian registry and look for all of the download links. The one thing to maybe note here as well is that in Canada, we're a bilingual country, so there are certain links that are in French and the statements are in French, and those are accessed by a French keyword, and we're not supporting those currently. Our our analysis was restricted to documents that were only in English. So this is going to allow you to basically build the equivalent of this PDF, this CSV on the right-hand side with all of the PDF URL links, but just by scraping the Canadian registry. Another piece of code that I'll just quickly point to, which is actually in another folder that Pierre-Luc was just mentioning, is in the scripts folder, code, QUT01, data, scripts, and there's parse raw data statements, additional countries. And again, this is just an adaptation of the data parsing script that was used for the Australian data, but this is what we used for the Canadian and UK data. And for this extension of the project, we didn't actually build a data lake, or a deep lake, I should say. We were just using CSV files because we had kind of a smaller data set. But yeah, that should get you started if you were interested in replicating that process that we did for the Canadian and the UK statements. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how we did it, and also happy to answer any questions if there are any. I'll pass it back to you, Adriana.
Thank you so much. And
Actually,
I know
maybe
also. Sorry?
if I can interrupt you for just a second,
Yeah,
I
perfect.
managed to get a notebook executed, the notebook I was talking about earlier, and I could just quickly take people through it to show essentially a little bit the raw data that we have in the deep lake format. So
Perfect.
again, it's that very like packaged format where we tried to put everything together for ease of use in the future. So now you should be able to see my screen. So this is the notebook that was previously on GitHub. I just executed the first few cells to show a little bit how it goes. So the first cell of interest is really this one, where we go and we create these data parsing objects. Once you execute it, if everything goes well, if your path is correctly set up, you'll just get a bunch of prints telling you essentially like the structure of the data set. And this is what I wanted to just quickly show you how it works. So in short, Deep Lake is a version data system. And currently we only used it for like a handful of versions related to the annotation process that we did. The first version is just the raw data, no annotations. Then we added new annotations, new ones. So each of those corresponds to a comet. I'll just skip over these because it's not super important for now. If we go down to this, and I'll put you up to the right place right here. It's so much text, I'm sorry. All right, right here. So here we have some interesting information about the structure of the data set and its content. So in short, there are 8,629 items in the data set. These items are statements. For each statement, we essentially have a bunch of information that's being stored into tensors. These tensors here are essentially their high-level descriptions. So we have Abby's outputs, Abby Fine Reader being a raw JSON output that came from the text extraction engine, and the raw text. So it's just a blob of text that you could use directly. There's also XML that is related to the contents of the PDF. So it's really like the structured contents of the PDFs, the location of images and all that kind of stuff. Then we have the annotations. So for each statement, yes, we have two types of annotations. The first type being the ASC1, which is approval signature C1. These are all the annotations that are tied to these statements. And we have a second batch here, C2 to C6. It's the other criteria. Everything is annotated there. So the numbers you see is really the number of statements times the number of annotators that produce annotations times 1. And finally, do we have other things at the end? I believe so. So there's a bunch of metadata related to the companies themselves, the companies producing the statements. So sometimes we have their annual revenue and all that stuff. This is self-declared information, so it hasn't been validated. And this is one thing that could be improved upon. We also have here another tensor, which is the fits output. So it's the other text extraction engine, which is used by default. And that's essentially it. So this is the structure of the data set at a super high level. And the rest of this script, if you run it, it'll give you a bunch more information about, like, for example, out of the 8,000 statements, there's 5,000 that are annotated for this first set of annotations. And there's 4,000 that are double annotated for the second set of annotations. you get information about where, what time period the statements come from, the number of pages, number of words, all that kind of stuff. So the rest of the notebook, I'll leave you up to you to explore. But yes, there's a lot of things in there that could be improved.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pierre-Luc, for explaining that. So this is the data that we used in Project AIMS, mainly, as you saw, focusing on the Australian modern slavery statements, but we also start using documents from UK and Canada. Duoyi has also used a lot of the UK and Canadian statements as raw documents that then she used to create pseudo labels for a model. She'll tell you all about it in the next workshop. But these steps were necessary for us to be able to do the research along the way. And particularly, again, it was because the approach that we took was to fine-tune large language models. So we needed that data in a very usable format for that. So if you are going to work on the AI model challenge, that's hopefully going to be useful for you. But if you are focusing on this particular challenge, the data mining, processing, and enrichment, what we wanted to show you was the resources that we have, but also the raw documents that are still existing on these registries, and give you a head start on how to access them. And what I would like to do next will be to go together step by step through the challenge that we have developed. So do you see a page for data mining, processing, and enrichment, a Google Doc?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we can go through this document together, step by step, and then you can stop us, please, whenever you have a question. So we want to make sure that you're leaving this place with a clear understanding of what we're expecting from you to do. So the data mining and processing and enrichment challenge is really asking you to be able to correct for some of these limitations that we had in Project AIMS and also move the project forward. So we want to provide to you these resources, the one that we explain. These are the registries links. You find our GitHub, the Figshare, the Hugging Face, the annotation specification, but also throughout the last couple of sessions, you have learned about some other possible data sources that contain information about the companies that you could potentially use. So those are the resources, and the challenge has two main pillars where we hope you to use those resources. So the first pillar of the challenge is to create dashboards or knowledge repository. So what we ask you to do is to go to the three registries, Australia, Canada, and the UK, and extract all the documents from there, or at least samples of documents. So to be able to look at all the different documents that exist from Australia, UK, and Canada. And then you can start asking questions about these three registries that will be interesting. For instance, how many companies are reporting under multiple laws? Is that something that you can check? So can we get now all these documents from all these three registries together and then try to assess all the metadata that they come and ask interesting questions? This is just an example of the question, but you can take this forward and ask multiple questions. What can we do with the French documents from Canada? How can you maybe download them? This is something we haven't looked at, but maybe somebody along the way would like to do translation or apply models that are designed for French language. Can you also make sure that you have that data collected, the French documents collected somewhere? So those are just examples of questions. And a next step in this particular pillar, it is to check if a company who has submitted a statement to a registry also has the modern slavery statement within their website. So you should be able to access a company from the data you downloaded, go to their website and check if the company's website contains on the first page or somewhere else a link to their modern slavery statements that they have been publishing over the last couple of years. This might be a bit more difficult in Canada because it's only been 1 year, or actually maybe actually won't be more difficult, but maybe some companies haven't done this because they're just starting to report. But in the UK, for instance, you should be able to find companies that have been reporting for almost 10 years, so they should have 10 modern slavery links. So can you build a system that allows you to check for each company's website if they have published their modern slavery statements on their website, and if those statements are on the registry? This might seem very simple. I think it's going to be quite challenging. And again, when you do this, you don't have to do it for all the different all the statements that exist on the registries. You can also do it for a sample. Just build a solution that works. And beyond just putting together the statements from the different registries and then checking if the documents from the registries are also found on the websites, can you augment the profile of a company? So you have all this company and metadata, you have their statement in a registry, you can check if the company has also reported on a different legislation like the UK or let's say Canadian Modern Slavery Act. But can you add more information about this company? And here, for instance, I would like maybe to invite Tim. Tim, you've been working with company data for many, many years. And I know you have some recommendations of possible data set that participants can use to understand more about a company profile beyond their reporting on modern slavery. Would you mind telling us a bit more about those data sets and maybe putting some links on the chat?
Sure thing. All right, I'll run through a few of the options that we would use internally, and then I'll pop the links on the chat. A few of them we would use internally. We start with something like Clearbit, which allows you to use the entity name or the tax ID to look at information on the company. You can build that information, such as the headcount, the revenue, where the headquarters, who the directors of the company may be. It allows you to start seeing what's in that structured data that you're getting from Clearbit, and compare that with what would be in the modern slavery statement. Also allows you to drill down further into the directors if there's any information that you may want to look up around bribery, corruption, or any particular register that the directors may be on, which could be of concern, aligning with the modern slavery statement. We've also used other tools, including just simply OpenAI to do a similar kind of scan. It's the data sets that come back from that can be modified quite a bit, but that might require a little bit of tweaking to see what you can get out of that. Another option is GDELT, which is a Google-backed data store that has information updated from global news sources every 15 minutes. It may allow you to look at information on the company around where there are any issues with adverse media, that's negative media on the company, and what they're doing and what they actually say they're doing in the modern slavery statement, and what may be published out there in news sources could be completely different. So that could be an interesting data source to compare, to see how valid the data they're putting in the statement is compared to what is actually being reported on the company out there as well. We would also use stuff like the Australian Business Register, or ABR lookup. That allows us to look at the ABN of an entity and drill down to that and see when it was created. You can go down into any sub entities or trading names attached to that. That again allows a higher level of data that you can actually start to query against those names, not just the reporting entities' names. So that's quite handy as well. Australian Security Investments Commission, if we get access to that, allows more information around the directors and the company structures as well, making sure that you're looking at data from the modern slavery statement and making sure they're reporting against, they're accurately reporting as well. There are other tools out there. The ILO has estimates of modern slavery where you can look at country risk scoring, sector risk scoring as well. They could be interesting data sources to look at, because then you can actually see different industries and where they have risks in different tiers of the supply chain and how that could be rolled up into the modern slavery statement and compared against the statements you're looking at. So they're just a few options. I'll go and put them into the chat after this, and then with some links, and you can have a look at that and see what else. Raise any questions if you have around how that could be potentially used.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you for hinting to the reason why you're asking for this. So, as you know, we are asking you to do the heavy lifting on the data because at the end of it, we would like to have this data ready for assessment, right? And we need to be able to start understanding better the profile of a company. And that's why we're asking you to look at the all the different registries and then ask question, what company is reporting under multiple legislation. So then you have a company and you know that it has a modern slavery statement under the Australian Act and maybe UK Act. And beyond that, what are other information that we can collect about this company? And then Tim provided many great examples of data sets that we can try to merge. So then we don't only understand the profile of the company reporting under modern slavery legislation, but maybe some information that comes from the news or some more information about the business themselves, and even merging some of this information with other data sources that will allow us in the future to make some assessment about the risk that this company has in terms of its sustainability. So that's why Tim was mentioning that it will be interesting, for instance, to bring in the Global Slavery Index or the estimates of modern slavery and the risk, because if a company, you will have companies' metadata on industry, and then these data sets from the Global Slavery Index is telling you what industries are at more risk or less of modern slavery. And if you can merge these two data sets, you're already getting some interesting data points that then analysts can look at. And that's the reason why we want to challenge you to try to collect as much information about companies and try to put them together in a knowledge repository or in a dashboard that then the analysts can use later on. And that's why this pillar is so important to us. But we also have, as you've learned yesterday, Wikirate, which took on some of this challenge, and they're collecting a lot of data about companies and their sustainability reporting, and that's also open source. So we had Vaso, who you've met yesterday, preparing a demo for us on how to access Wikirate data. And if Joanne, if you're ready, would you mind sharing that video with us so we can show the participants how to navigate the Wikirate platform, how to download data, and maybe bring that data into their dashboard? Are you here, Joanne? If not, we can do this a bit later, or we can just share with you the video and you can watch it on your own time because it's available. So maybe we'll do that. But again, let me share my screen so we can continue discussing the challenge. So just to summarize, let's see. Okay, so just to summarize, under this challenge, the data processing and enrichment, the first pillar is to create a dashboard or a knowledge repository, whatever you like to call it, where you will try to collect as much information about the companies, their modern slavery statements, ask interesting questions, check if those companies also publish their modern slavery statements on their website, and then try to collect as many informations as possible about the company from other data sources like the one that Tim is sharing with us, the Wikirate demo video you'll have, or any others that you'll find, because you can also go online and try to find your own data sources so you can stand out compared to the other colleagues. Maybe before I tell you about the second pillar, Akshata, you had some suggestions on potential methods that maybe participants can use in trying to identify the availability of the statement on the website. Do you want to speak a bit about that?
Sorry, can you go back to the points on the challenge?
Here?
Yes, yes. So one idea that we were discussing is to do HTML extraction, use a tool like Beautiful Soup or any other HTML extraction method, and try to see the HTML structure, try to get the tree from the website and to look for keywords and extract information through that. Other ideas could also be some sort of agentic website browsing, use models to do the search for you, or you could use some sort of document search or retrieval-based method using RAG or other machine learning-based models to do query search.
Thank you. And the reason for that is because you might expect that the statement will be on the website, on the first page of the website, but also it might be in a page somewhere hidden within the website, especially that those are really big corporations. Also, I think there will be the more automatic you're going to make this process, the more challenges I think you're going to have, because I think a lot of websites will have blockers on scraping. So that's why I believe that this is going to be quite a bit of a challenging part of this pillar. It might seem easy, but there will be some hurdles. So I'm curious to hear how you're going to address those difficulties, and maybe just to provide the background of why we ask you to do this, in case it's not clear yet. As you heard from the three governments yesterday morning, the legislation requires the company to publish these statements not only on the registry but also on their website. But the governments, as you've learned by now, they don't have the resources to go through thousands of companies' websites and check if they are also putting the document on the website. The reason why we need the document to be on the website is because this is where the consumer in an ideal world will go and read about the company and read about their sustainability efforts and then decide if they want to engage with that company or not. If that happens or not, that's left for debate, but that's why we're asking you to do this, because if you're finding a really good solution for that, you're going to help the governments tremendously in their possibility of enforcing this particular aspect of the law. So again, for this challenge, the first pillar is asking you to try to create comprehensive profiles of the companies, try to see, get understand the three registries, see the commonalities, the metadata, see where you can merge it, where you can assess if a company reports under multiple jurisdictions, what are interesting aspects that you find within this data. Like Jordan was hinting, there's some French documents in there. What can you do with it? How can you present that? Then check if for a couple of documents, if you can fetch the statement from their website. What are you learning from that? Tell us, how many errors did you get in trying to scraping? What are the type of websites that you can access, what not? And then try to merge that profile of a company with other data sources. We're suggesting some for you, but you should go and also try to find other data sources about companies. So that will allow you to stand out compared to the other participants. So this is the first pillar of the data challenge. Create a good comprehensive profile of the company with regards to their reporting on modern slavery and beyond with sustainability. If there are not any questions, or are they? I see something in the chat. Oh, thank you, Tim, for sharing the resources. I'm actually just gonna go ahead and copy them right now into the document as well. So they're here because we will share all of this in the participants handbook. First pillar, I hope it's clear. If it's not, let's discuss it more. But the second pillar, it's something that we allude to a couple of times. And that's this huge issue that we're having with regards to the fact that those documents, they come in very complex formats, and we need to be able to extract the information from these statements, regardless if they are in very complex formats or very easy ones. So once again, let's look at this very interesting document from Qantas. Can you build an extraction pipeline that doesn't just extract this text? And by the way, when you have some columns like this, if you use OCR, sometimes the the text extraction will go from under straight to the information. So you will extract text on this way. So just mentioning some of the things we've learned. So build a solution that can extract text very well. And beyond that, we'll be able to tell you this is an image actually contains nothing about modern slavery reporting. But here, oh, wait a second, those are some informations that actions in previous reporting reporting years. Those images are really important. So can you extract this information in a meaningful way? So then when we try to build machine learning to assess this document, we can assess all the information within this document. So again, here you can improve OCR or accuracy or the way we extract the text from scanned PDFs or and so on. But also, most importantly, we want to see that you can meaningfully extract information from infographics and tables. And then remember, if you are, for instance, going to build some machine learning models or something like this, or any method that tries to identify the location of the information of the tables or infographics within the documents, you have already ground truth data in our annotated data set. We have for all these almost 6,000 documents, ask the annotators to tell us on page 1 you'll find a table and this is some text that we can extract from this table or infographics. So you already have some ground truthing to help you improve or test your solutions. And that's it for this. We just want to see what you're coming up with. There are so many more exciting methods out there, multimodals, a lot of interesting things that have been developed to be able to interrogate PDFs and in complex documents. So hopefully we'll let you take it from here and you'll be able to show us what you found. So again, the goal of this challenge, the data science processing and enrichment, is to respond to the 2 pillars. One is about creating a comprehensive profile of a company and check also if their website contains the modern slavery statement. And second, it is to look at these statements and extract all the information as clear as possible from text, infographics, and tables as well. Are there any questions so far? If not, let's go a little bit more towards the deliverable. Oh yeah, we have a question. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to understand, like, if someone chose this challenge, does it mean that it's going to like work on the 2 pillar, or you can just choose one?
2.
The 2. Okay.
The 2, yeah. Because you'll see the other 2 challenges, they're also going to be quite complex. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a challenging experience, but that's why we wanted to have 2 elements within each challenge. So hopefully you'll be able to address both pillars. Yes.
Thank you. Got it.
So what we expect to see at the end is the dashboard and the knowledge repository with the statements, website check, and enriched company profiles. Structure outputs from text and tables and infographics. Show us that the quality of extraction has improved. So even just send us a couple of documents, send us this crazy Quantas document and show us that you were able to extract meaningful information from it, for instance. So kind of pick a few documents that are different. You can pick a document that is as complex as this one and one that is a lot simpler, or you can decide. And make sure you document very well your methods so they're clear and easy to be reproduced if for the future parts of the project. And then we have the evaluation criteria. We want to see clear data quality improvement, reproducibility, integration of external sources. So as I said, if you are able to bring in some of this data from Wikirate or the resources that Tim mentioned, practicality, and then trustworthiness. So again, the outputs are usable, well documented, so people can build upon these resources forward. So we think that you should focus on methods that work. So we don't expect you to do this for all the documents that exist on the 3 registries. Sorry, I'm just gonna have to let my puppy out of the room. I'll be back in a second. Okay. So focus on methods that work, start small, think about in the future how your methods can be scaled. Of course, try to build the methods that work reasonably fast, but they're doing a good job. And then yes, something that it can be used as an extension of project aims. And mention that ideally, as you build all of this, think about using resources that are open source, that are small and good. So we don't need heavy compute to be able to integrate this in a pipeline, because again, the goal is that these resources will be used by people that don't have a lot of access to compute in the future. So this is it. This is the first challenge. So I'm curious to see if there are any further questions or curiosities that you have about this. Any other advice from the panelists from your experience on working with these documents or generally building this type of tools?
Yes, I could try to underline how difficult it is to work with PDFs. As Adriana, the example you showed, the Qantas PDF, I think it's a very good example. That is not a typical one. I don't remember the proportion of these very complicated PDFs, but it must be maybe 1 in 10 at least. These are horrible to work with. These are extremely difficult, but it's okay to avoid them. It's okay to try to identify, detect them, and skip them. If you want to build a smaller solution, a smaller prototype that works with regular, easier PDFs, that is totally okay. That's totally fine. Another thing I could try to highlight is don't spend too much time on just one aspect, trying to solve one small detail and one small part of the pipeline. The pillars, they're quite vast. It's probably better to go and try to tackle the different aspects with some minimal solution instead of just focusing on one and making it perfect. So yeah, I feel like those are good recommendations.
Thank you so much, Pierre-Luc. Anything else that you think the participants should be aware of as they embark into this? So we already discussed some challenges we expect with scraping websites from corporations. I think that might be a bit of a difficult. Also, when you try to bring in other resources, again, try to use only resources that are free. Don't pay for any subscriptions or any data that it's not already available, because most likely the NGOs and they won't have resources to pay for this type of data. So this is why we're asking in this particular hackathon to think about building solutions that the people in resource constrained environments can then utilize. So be creative, try to find data sources, research what other options are out there. And again, you'll also see the video from WikiRate. That's a very useful resource, and I'm sure there are a few others out there similar to this. And think about what else would you like to know about the company. So when we think about the profile on sustainability, we have now quite a few documents access to on modern slavery and some other resources that team has shown. But would you be interested in knowing other things about them, like as we said, the news or the media or something like this? And then you can try to find those resources and really try to make your team stand out compared to the others. And then just extract the information from those PDFs as good as you can and try to show this to us with a few diverse documents.